Welcome back. You join me in the back room. I decided to have a bit of a change of scenery. Surprisingly enough, I'm still writing. I'm still working on all the things I was doing last week and the week before. But you know what? I fancied shaking it up a little bit. So I'm down here. We've got 2 chairs at the end of the room that are really comfortable. We've got a keyboard down here as well so I can play. And yeah, it's just a nice alternative to the studio. And it's got me thinking. Because we talked about how I work and what I do to get around problems and how I create things, but we've not really talked about where I work. Now, being a freelancer means that I do get to work in quite a few different locations. So I'm going to show you this week all the places that I work. Obviously, the first of which is my own home, the place where I live. But even then, there are actually rooms in this house that I use for different things. So let's talk about my work environment. Let's talk about the room where it happens. So the main room that I work in is this one, my home recording studio. Now I've been here for quite a few years, and this is a room that has adapted over time to meet the needs of what I'm actually doing at that particular moment. But it's always been a very trustworthy and safe place to actually create work. I always feel like I can come in here and actually create something. I can shut the door, I can fire up the computer, I can sit at the piano, I can turn the amplifier on, you name it. I can sit in here and create work very comfortably. And weirdly enough, I don't think I've officially ever done a tour of this room. I'm going to try and do this in the style of Casey Neistat, so if I get my pointing wrong, it's because I'm looking at the screen above. Okay, let's do this. Kallax unit from IKEA that contains a tremendous amount of sheet music. A Kawai MIDI controller that actually feels like a piano. The famous tape recorder. A picture of the Beatles. A certificate that my granddad got when he was at primary school. More on that story in another vlog. Kallax unit number 2 containing camera gear and assorted technical things. Vox amplifier and assorted guitars. And then of course behind me is my desk with a couple of displays. A Mac is somewhere back there. Yeah. And that's basically where I do all my work. Thus concludes the studio tour. So even though I don't strictly work in the kitchen, it needs to have an honourable mention really, because I do spend a lot of time in here. As anyone who watches this vlog regularly will know, I use cooking to get away from writing quite a lot. And don't get me wrong, I have written the odd lyric in here, but as music goes, it's not like I can sit in here with a piano and sort of hammer out tunes or anything like that. But as you know, this is an essential part of my songwriting process. As a side note, on tonight's menu is prawn fried rice, which I am extremely excited for. Another place that I'm lucky enough to have as a place of work is ABC Audioworks, my proverbial second home, but actual home of my friend Alex Bayard Cook. Every record that I've cut has had some part made here, dating back to, I'm pretty sure, 2009, when Alex and I tried to overtrack a version of the Phil Collins track, Behind the Lines. It didn't work out, sadly. Since then, Alex and I have worked together on all sorts of things, including some new material, which we were working on this particular day. It's a great place to work, and I always feel at home here. Alex even humours me sometimes and lets me pretend to play the drums. Whenever I need a different perspective on my work or a fresh pair of ears, you'll find me at ABC's. Is a car a room? I guess so. So obviously I don't do a tremendous amount of writing when I'm driving, because that would be very, very difficult to do when you're in charge of a vehicle. Having said that, I do like to make the most of my driving experience, particularly when it comes to work. So sometimes I listen to music business podcasts when I'm driving, because it's the best time to sort of digest that kind of information. I usually find them quite informative, and otherwise I'd have to make a deliberate point to actually listen to them. Also, if I've got a gig coming up, it's a good opportunity for me to learn the set list, so I'll just make a playlist of the songs on Spotify and listen while I'm driving. But also, if I'm stuck for ideas with my own things, I tend to use drives and listening to other people's music as a way to stimulate my brain and come up with new ideas. And often that works for me. So for example, last night I was stuck for an idea on a particular song that I'm writing for this musical at the moment. So I listened to High Society and I got an idea straight away. I thought, okay, I can use this as a framework, a bit of a style, and sort of do a pastiche of this particular song. So it gave me a jumping off point. And I wouldn't have got that if I was just sat at my desk trying to think of something to do. And also, I genuinely love driving. It's always been a very therapeutic thing for me. But it isn't just about getting from A to B. It is about developing those ideas and helping your creative process, whether it is, listening to other people's music or thinking about your own. And I've said this countless times before, but I've had quite a few of my best ideas while I've been driving.
Towards the end of this week, I went to see Lizzie and Tim. We had a nice few days together, and while I was there, I thought about Oxford and its role in history. Oxford is a place where creativity thrives. In fact, it always has been. Countless significant figures from history have graced this city with their presence. The list is far too long for this vlog, so I'll just choose 3 people. The actor Felicity Jones, who starred in The Theory of Everything and Rogue One. Documentary filmmaker Louis Theroux. And of course, Jethro Tull. The agriculturalist, not the famous progressive rock band from the 1970s, although I would be very surprised if they hadn't toured here at some point. Everywhere you look, there's a location that inspired something or a room where something famous happened. This, for example, is allegedly the location that inspired the entrance to C.S. Lewis's fictional land of Narnia. A door with a lion-like face engraved into it with 2 fawns either side, situated very close to a solitary lamppost. But Oxford's creative history also does a good job of hiding in plain sight. So that house behind me there is where J.R.R. Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings, which is just amazing. And as far as I know, I'm going to have to fact check this, I'm pretty sure he wrote quite a lot of it in that garage, which you can kind of see, which is amazing. Incredible to think that it was written there in that quite normal looking house, really. And of course, I was lucky enough to spend 3 years at university here, and I felt privileged to live and work in this incredible place. This is the guest house I stayed at the night before my university interview. I remember it so well, I didn't sleep at all. After a long drive through the night, I'm back at home again. Back in the studio and ready to make something out of nothing. Back in the room where it happens. I'm genuinely amazed that I've got this far without making a Hamilton reference.